Once again today in the Russian press, the contrasts are striking. Russia is building new trains, Vladimir Putin discussing building up the Russian army, and Russia building up expectations of victory in Ukraine, with passages like this in Moskovsky Komsomolets. Zelensky will have no choice but to throw up the white flag and agree to our peace terms. And yet at the same time, problems in the Russian economy are building. According to Nezavisimaya Gazeta, budget revenues continue to fall, trade with China is declining, and there are downturns in industry. There is not a single factor that could improve the negative economic dynamics next year. Even the planned replenishment of the treasury through tax increases might not work, Russian economists warn. In fact, tax rises might result in less revenue for the state budget. This is a reference to the planned rise in VAT in Russia. According to economists, with an increase in VAT and the subsequent increase in prices, the purchasing power of business and household incomes will decrease slightly, which in turn will lead to a reduction in income tax revenues for the federal and regional budgets. Plus, the Ministry of Finance reported that between January and October 2025, oil and gas budget revenues were down 21.4% year on year. Global oil prices will probably fall, the tax burden on enterprises will rise, and consumer activity of the population stagnate. The rise in petrol prices in Russia is slowing, but there are still supply problems in the regions. Regional problems with fuel shortages remain in Russia. The authorities of the Trans-Baikal territory appealed to Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin and the Ministry of Energy with a request to help supply the region with fuel. Kommersant. In the last 9 months, the revenue of housing developers has decreased by 6.7% year on year. Sales are down 18%. In Russia, demand for steel will fall 14% in 2025. Now, in the highly controlled Russian media landscape, what you won't find is public criticism of Vladimir Putin or of Russia's war in Ukraine. What you will find in the newspapers here, by no means every day, but every so often, are articles expressing concern, criticism even, of certain developments in Russia and the direction of travel. I remember a few months ago articles in Moskovsky Komsomolets slamming the rehabilitation in Russian society of Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. And in Nezavisimaya Gazeta today, there is this editorial, which declares, in a situation where almost everything is prohibited, a little something at least should be permitted. It's about a recent book festival in Moscow. Just before it opened, pro-Kremlin bloggers criticised the list of participants. In the Telegram platform, Ural Live had dismissed the book festival as the largest gathering of anti-Russian artists in recent times. Prominent anti-war figures will come together. Subsequently, some of these poets and writers were uninvited, their participation in the festival scrapped. As Nezavisimaya Gazeta reports, there was a book festival. This is a good, useful and necessary thing. Yes, performances by a number of poets and writers were planned there, but these were cancelled and at the very last moment. Well, what's good about that? Pointing out that these cultural figures hadn't left Russia, the editorial says, if a citizen hasn't left the country, he is at least a patriot, and at most an ardent patriot. And if he has questions for someone or about something, this is also normal. Healthy criticism is called healthy because it helps both the country and the population. And if it offends someone personally, it's worth taking a closer look at who is offended. The writer appears to suggest that these cultural figures were cancelled for not speaking out in support of the authorities, for their silence. You cannot please everyone, but you will certainly offend and insult someone, even by staying silent or by omitting to mention something, as those offended put it, by deliberately and insultingly omitting to mention something. For example, imagine you're talking about the sights of a particular town. You've listed 1001 attractions, but you didn't mention the 1002nd. And because of that, you're accused of insulting someone, humiliating someone's honour and dignity, of discrediting them, of working for the enemy. Guys, well, we don't work for the enemy. Even if we forgot something, even if someone got really offended, we repeat and emphasise any statement can offend someone. So what? Does that mean everyone now has to stay silent? Now, this is cautious criticism. It is not directed at President Putin, but at pro-Kremlin activists. Still, it is a public expression of concern at what is happening in Russia.